All right, our next author is Alana Davidson. Alana, join me here. Alana is the author of Finding Your Own Happy, a soul searcher's guide to peace and happiness in everyday life. So, Alana, let's tell people a little bit about your book.
Sure. So this book was written for people who maybe have tried a lot of different things, like mindfulness, meditation, personal development. Maybe they have a spiritual practice and they wonder why, after so much personal development work, personal growth, that they're still not all that happy. Now, that was my story for many, many years. I struggled with depression. Sometimes I felt suicidal. And after 20 or more years of like working on my stuff, I was like, what am I missing? Because I'm still struggling with depression. I'm still not all that happy. And so this book is sort of some of the things that I discovered that made the difference for me and turned my life into a totally different experience where I'm now mostly happy most of the time.
And when you're not, you know what to
Yes,
do.
exactly. So not everyone's happy all the time, and there's some times when it makes sense not to be happy. Like my father passed away recently. That's a life-changing event. It's the emotionally appropriate response, which is something I talk a lot about in the book. In that instance, is not happiness. You're going to go through some sort of experience, but when you have the tools to navigate it and know how to work with it in a particular context, it doesn't have to take you down. So you can still have your full range of emotions, but underneath that is a sense of general well-being, which is kind of what I'm talking about when I talk about happiness. It's not just having a smile on your face all the time. It's having that sense of happiness with yourself and your life.
It's such a powerful and important message, and I think a gift for people to give themselves. Very often when I'm talking about people's books, I'll suggest that you think of someone in your life, like with Katie's book, who is a developer. Think about who you know that's a developer. This book is all about you, each and every one of you who are listening here. The book is free, so there are no excuses. The link is on your screen, so go ahead, go to Amazon. And one of the things that I love about Alana's book is it might sound subtle in the title. She says, Finding Your Own Happy, but really this is not a blueprint or a one-size-fits-all prescription. This is about what works for you, and I think that's what makes it so powerful. We're going to take some questions here, and I think you'll like this one. This is from Patrice, and she says, how do I get past the wall that says I can't do it when it comes to writing my book? I think we all know that wall. Give Patrice some of your advice.
So the first thought that comes to mind is, whose voice is that? Is that your own voice, or is that someone else's? And how much judgment, how much opinions of others are you letting stop yourself or hold yourself back? And then another thing to ask yourself is, what's the worst that will happen? And to write anyway. This is something I learned from Angela. Keep writing forward. So we can get into writer's block, which is a lot about judgment, a lot about what we think other people are going to think, or it's not good enough. But if you just keep writing and you just keep moving forward and say, I'm just going to get this out and I can come back later, and if I don't like it, I can throw it out, but I'm going to keep going, you will learn so much more about showing up and by doing the thing, even if you hate it, than if you just sit and say, oh, I'm not going to try it because whatever fears are getting in the way, or fear of judgment from other people.
So true. Such amazing advice. I'm going to ask you one more question. This one's from Oki in Maryland. And Oki asks, what, if anything, would you have done differently? I'm curious.
Oh, that's an interesting question. The writing process for me was fairly easy. People say, write a book. Like, when did you start? I started in July or August, but really I started years and years ago. So this is a book that has been developing for me. The concepts, the ideas have been developing for me for over, probably say like 10 years. And so when it got to writing, it just really flowed. I don't know that I really would have done anything that much differently. It kind of, there were definitely stumbling blocks, but I worked through them and I kept going. And in the end, I'm pretty happy with the process.
Yeah, one of the things I thought was interesting about your journey is there were times when we would get to a step in the process and you are like so in tune to yourself that you would be like, I get this, I understand it intellectually, but this doesn't work for me. and here's how I want to change this for me. And I really understand the pros and cons. And I really respected that in the process of you knowing yourself. I think that I thought that question was interesting, Oki, when you asked, is there anything you would change? When I talk to people who have something they would change, it's when they weren't true to themselves. So how did you do that? How do you think you had the strength, or what's a tip that you might give? Because through this whole process, you have been so true to who you are.
Right. And that's something that I've learned over a long time in my life, and working with lots of different healers and mentors. And I got to places where what they were telling me didn't feel true to me anymore. And I went through these moments of conflict about, do I listen to what they're telling me about myself that just doesn't feel right to me, or do I trust my own self? And there was a moment when I really had to just choose that, and choose, okay, no matter who you are, no matter how psychic, intuitive, perceptive, how much you've already contributed to my life, it's really up to me to know what's true for me. I can look inside and evaluate people's input and information, but ultimately I get to make that choice about what feels true to me. And I talk about that in the book as well. And I believe in that so strongly. And even as a coach and working with people who are struggling and overcoming some of their obstacles, that I want to give it back to you. I want to empower you to know what's true for you, because nobody knows you better than you do. We can only have insight and help you open the door to yourself.
Well, I will say that was my favorite thing about having you in the program, and the way you modeled that for other people, and the way there was never any drama around it. It was always like, here's what's true for me. How do we go from here? And it was just amazing for me to be able to coach you and be like, that's just so clean and clear. And It just made a huge difference to getting this book out, Finding Your Own Happy, A Soul Searcher's Guide to Peace and Happiness in Everyday Life by Alana Davidson. If you feel at all like you owe it to yourself to be happier, or to figure out like, why can't I get this niggling suspicion that things could be better, you need a copy of this book, and you need to meet Alana. I'm going to send you an email also with information on Alana and how you can track her down, because she is an amazing healer, and I'm excited for you to get to know her and her book.
Thank you, Angela.
Congratulations. Great job.